I have an incredibly important story here for you that deserves much more media attention, and it isn't getting it. India recently announced it did surgical strikes, as they call it, in Pakistan. Now, that is a gigantic admission, because in the past, India has done these, but they kept it quiet out of fears that it might escalate with Pakistan. But now they're just wearing it on their sleeve, and they're saying, yeah, we went to your territory and we did some strikes. That's what happened. So Pakistan responded to this, honestly, in a desperate attempt to save face. They said, no, you didn't strike us. Yeah, that's what happened. So they're doing that because the population in Pakistan, if they believed and knew, and the majority of the people were informed on this, and they thought, no, India actually did, violate our sovereignty and bomb us here, they'd be like, oh, well, we're at war then. Counterattack. What are you waiting for? So the Pakistani government, I guess in some respects, was like, okay, pump our brakes here a little bit, figure out what's going on, collect ourselves, and then figure out how to move forward. So NBC News explains why this is all happening. They put it in context. They say, Pakistan has long been accused of housing and supporting militant groups that target India, including one which was behind the devastating 2008 Mumbai attacks that left over 160 dead. India's strikes Thursday appear to be retaliation for a militant attack that killed 19 Indian soldiers in Uri near the frontier on September 18th. The incident, the latest in a long string that Delhi has pinned on militants protected by Pakistan, provoked widespread outrage and anger in India. At the heart of the tensions between the two countries is Kashmir, one of the most militarized regions in the world, which straddles the India-Pakistan border. Both India and Pakistan claim all of Kashmir, but govern separate parts. India and Pakistan have fought 3 wars since independence from Britain in 1947, 2 over Kashmir. The two countries often exchange small arms fire across the so-called line of control that separates the two. India has the world's 2nd largest army and Pakistan the world's 6th largest. The more than 700,000 Indian troops stationed in the disputed Kashmir Valley are grappling with the separatist movement in the Muslim-majority area. They are staring down almost 200,000 Pakistani troops on the other side of the border. Pakistan hinted they might retaliate. The defense minister said, quote, if India tries to do this again, we will respond forcefully. Adding a dangerous element to the mix is Pakistan's consistent assertion that it reserves the right to use nuclear weapons preemptively. India has a no-strike first policy. Pakistan's defense minister repeated that claim last week after the attack on India's soldiers in Uri. Okay, so when you talk to former presidents and former heads of state, they will tell you the one issue that keeps me up the most at night is India and Pakistan. You have countries that are neighbors. They are uber nationalistic. They are fairly fundamentalist. And they're nuclear armed. Basically the perfect shitstorm. You look at that and you go, oh, that's designed to blow up. So with this escalation, and also, by the way, the populations in India and Pakistan are not helping. Because very tribal, militaristic coverage, demonizing the other, and it's entrenched. So you look at this, and it hits you that, man, it's like we have this veneer of civilization over the top of endless barbarity and savagery all around the world. Like, if you think about it, World War I, 1914, it started. You know how many people died in World War I? 38 million. 38 million. That's unbelievable. It all started over the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand. Like, you look at that and you go, oh, come on, there's no way that the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand is somehow going to draw every country in the world, a world war to happen. Because all these different treaties, okay, if this country gets involved, then that country gets involved. If that country gets involved, then this other country gets involved. And next thing you know, everybody's fighting each other, and nobody fucking even knows why. I don't know, I'm fighting because my country tells me, and nationalism and pride and all this different stuff. So, but it would have been inconceivable if you told somebody 2 years before World War I, they would have been like, huh? What are you talking about? What does that mean? And what's an archduke? I don't even know what a fucking archduke is. And that's just World War I. You know, at the time, they called that the Great War. And then World War II happened, and people were like, oh, this one was even worse. So in World War II, 60 million people died. They didn't think it could get worse after World War I, and then it did, like, immediately after. So you had 60 million people die, and you got to understand, at the time, that was about 3% of the world's population. I mean, try to wrap your mind around that. You put 100 people in a room, you grab 3 of them out of there, and you say, you're going to die. And that's the breakdown of it. 3 out of every 100 people on the planet died in World War II. So again, we feel like when there's relative stability and peace, and again, I know that's not perfectly clear because there's, of course, massive conflicts in Syria, South Sudan, you know, so I'm not saying everything is perfect, but what I'm saying is in many countries, there's a feeling of relative stability and peace. But, I mean, if you talk to people in Syria or South Sudan or elsewhere, they're like, bitch, this is like the temporary state. Human history is just a litany of people fucking people up. People killing people jacking their natural resources, people, you know, fighting over ideology and religion and nationalism and all these different things. And when you look at, so here's my contention. When you look at something like World War I, you go, oh, I don't even understand how a world war could have happened as a result of an assassination of a seemingly random archduke. When you look at India and Pakistan, I understand perfectly well how that shit can unfold into a nuclear war and how millions of people can die as a result of it. Guys, it's so important. Like, being a peacekeeper, calming tensions, it's so fucking important. It is so important. Like, if I see this, and I'm the U.S., or if I'm the UN, dude, I immediately try to call a meeting with the leadership in Pakistan and the leadership in India, and we sit down and we talk it out, and I don't let anybody fucking leave the room until we come to some sort of an understanding and an agreement. Because you're playing with the lives of literally millions of people. I mean, that's what it is. So you have to be responsible. There's nothing that frustrates me more than the idea of, like, leaders of states treating human beings like pawns in a chess game. You know, just like disposable things on this global chessboard. That's unacceptable, and it's nearly incomprehensible in the year 2016. But my point to you guys is that is the case. And with an escalation like this, you just got to hope that cooler heads prevail, man. You just got to hope that that happens. You got to hope that leadership is rational enough to figure something out, to avoid escalating to hot war. And then if it is hot war, I mean, the fact that Pakistan, like, openly says and does it on a regular basis, like, we reserve the right to do a nuclear first strike on India. I mean, that's like some Donald Trump level shit in terms of, like, unhinged comments. Not caring about the consequences of, like, a very one-sided, myopic, stupid thing to say because you don't understand the fallout of that. You don't understand what that can provoke in response. You don't understand, like, how much of an escalatory move that is. Like, you can't say that. Who does that? You can't do that. What intelligent person would say, oh yeah, by the way, we have nuclear weapons and we reserve the right to first strike your punk ass and maybe kill millions of civilians? What the fuck is that? You can't do that. But they do it, and they do it on a regular basis. So this isn't stable. This is, I'm the bringer of bad news. Is that a thing? Is it the word bringer of bad news? I feel like people put a different word there. Carrier of bad news? I don't know. I'm the person who is presenting to you some disastrous information today. And you just hope that leadership around the world is sane enough and calm enough and cool enough to figure it all out. But I don't know about you guys. I don't I don't have that much faith in leadership around the world. I wish I did, but I don't. I've seen, too many things spiral out of control, too many situations escalate when they didn't need to, and I've read too much history to feel like, this sense of civilization is permanent. It's almost like it's the temporary thing that we visit, and then human beings always somehow revert back to a disastrous state of affairs. I hope that's not the case here, but I fear otherwise.